My name is Hussein Al-Bayati. I'm not from around these parts. I'm actually from Iraq. So Iraq is my beautiful home. And living in Iraq was something I didn't really get to experience. I was about 5 years old. Bombs started raining on Baghdad. Not like the song, but quite literally. And my family and I had to leave. We had to leave and become refugees in a desert, and it was a horrendous experience. However, in that time span, I had an amazing father. He was an artist of all sorts, writer, theater, and of course painting. And that man single-handedly taught me more or less everything I know about life, and then some. And of course, I had the power of my mother and my siblings. And so at this time when I was in this horrible time in this refugee camp where we lived in a 10 by 10 basically tent, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about life, resilience, and of course art. And so we didn't have books, so my dad had to teach me art and teach me about my heritage and teach me about who I am through poetry, through story, through pure love. Because when you don't have anything, you don't have anything. Literally, we did not have anything. My mom cooked like on the ground in a hole. We had to boil our water. You have love. And so I felt like I had everything. I had my brothers, I had laughter. My dad was like a comedian. He was hilarious to be around. But he did something really clever. Late nights, he started working and connecting with the soldiers that surrounded this refugee camp, okay? And with that, these guys, he would ask them like, hey, do you want like your wife painted, maybe your kid, whatever. See, they didn't know that my dad was like literally a famous artist in Iraq, right? And so he's like, just bring me like oil paints and supplies and I'll take care of it. They're like, who is this guy, you know? So sure enough, one guy brought him some stuff, you know? And it was all just exchange of stories, exchange of having the courage to go up with a guy with a machine gun in his hand. It was an exchange of, hey, I have something to offer you. Even though you're putting that water tank further than it needs to be, even though you're sort of torturing my people, I'm gonna give you something that is gonna make you love me, right? So the guy brings the canvas, brings some art supplies. My dad stays up for a few nights and paints him and his wife in the most beautiful, I mean, I'm talking like it's like, you know, just a little canvas, right? But to this man, it was everything. He's like, oh shit, I didn't realize it was gonna be this good. The guy was blown away. And guess what he did? Called all his buddies, right? Hey, where's your tent? Like, can you do more of these? Right? And then so my dad started getting more canvases, more supplies, more pictures to, you know, so for the next 3.5, about 4 years, while we lived in this desert refugee camp, you know, I remember walking with my dad, going up to this board in the center of the refugee camp. My dad would take me with him, and in this board, there was these names. And every 2 months or so, immigration would have interviews with families so that we could get out of there, right? And my dad would walk me there and say, you know, we're gonna find our names today. We're gonna find our names today. But the coolest part is, because we didn't find our names, he would say, oh, so-and-so's name is on here, let's go visit them. You see, my dad wanted great, not only for himself, but he wanted it for others. He believed in reciprocity, he believed in good karma. That when you want good for others, eventually it will be your turn, right? And so while he painted, he met the guy who ran the refugee camp. So over a span of time, he became known around the camp. That's just his vibrancy, right? Everywhere he went, he was poetry, comedian, funny guy, artist. People wanted to be around that because we are in the most oppressed point of our lives. So people go where the light is. There was always people coming over, having tea. My mom always whipping up these little, baklava and all these things, with what we had. Eventually we came to America. And this is why I talk about art saved my life, quite literally. But not art. A man with a purpose saved my life. And see, the reason I tell you this story is, and the reason why, sadly, a lot of people don't want to read your books, right? I'm going to get into it right now. You ready? Is because we need to start with a purpose. People don't necessarily want to read your book. They want to read about themselves. They want to discover who they are. We're asking questions. When we seek out books, we're looking for who we are. Whether it's business, fantasy, whatever it is, whatever genre you're in. People are seeking you out, however, you're not in the line of light. Right? They're looking for you, but where are you? People want to sell 1 million books. Where are you? Where's your book? In today's world, since there are no real gatekeepers anymore, and you can use the power of social media, where are you? You see, my dad had to walk up to men with machine guns. He put himself in the line of fire for his purpose. So where are you putting yourself? I say put yourself in the line of light so that when that light hits you, you start to shine. Attention. That's the new economy. Remember, it was steel, then electricity, right? The Industrial Revolution. You get where I'm going with this? Today, it's attention. We are in the attention economy. The more, look, whether it's Kylie Jenner or Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, right? And they're starting tequila brands and whatever, right? But what's happened? What do they have that even actors from 10 years ago didn't have or not taken advantage of? Attention. They see the power of social media. So we're not here to talk about social media, though. I promise you that, because that's not necessarily marketing. See, a lot of people think marketing is about an event or something you have to talk about or something you have to sell. It's none of those things. As a matter of fact, my dad was doing exactly what marketing is. He was sharing stories. We've been talking about how the power of story and where it resonates, right? So if we take it back, what's the purpose? See, my dad was thinking long term. He was thinking connections. If I can increase the power of my connections, I can increase the likelihood of me getting the fuck out of this refugee camp. You see what I'm saying? He had a game plan, a strategy. So therefore, the willingness to be in front of that light, that fire, right, had a purpose behind it. And that's the strength we got to get to. We got to get you to think about 3 things. 1, your author offer. No one thinks about this. Why? Because we think about social media first. When we think about marketing, we always think about how many people can see this. First and foremost, you got to think about, why do you want people to see this? Who is this for? This is the number 1 question no one really asked. Who is this for? This is the baseline of like my dad when he was painting, he didn't just start painting horses and come into the guy and say, hey, do you want to buy this horse? He said, no, go get me the supplies and get me a picture you want me to paint. He made it about them, right? When they brought him supplies, he then did the horse and brought him the painting of his wife. See what I'm saying? Now the guy wants the twofer deal, right? It's about positioning yourself, right? And differentiating yourself. So we got to think about an offer. So there's 3 steps to an offer. First of all, who is it for? What emotional pain does that offer solve? And what's your solution? The stronger the pain, the premium the price. Let me say that one more time. The stronger the pain, the steeper the price, right? Because if you're able to solve a problem with what you're writing about, and I promise you, I can go from entertainment all the way to business. Everybody has something they're looking for. We're all looking for love. And if you can show me that love through your writing, I can't get enough of it. This is why we can't get enough of certain writers, certain actors, certain people in our lives. Can't get enough of them, right? Because they're beaming with love, something we always want. So if we can interact with our offer in a way that emotionally resonates, okay, emotionally resonates with who we're giving it to, and we weave our expertise with the solution, right? We weave our expertise with that solution, then you are the go-to person for that wisdom, right? So we all know Buddha, right? But we also know the Dalai Lama. He's the go-to person for that wisdom, right? He embodies this idea that we long for, right? So what do you embody, first and foremost? What is the solution that when somebody looks at you, talks about you, looks you up online, whatever, when they just know your name, what is the solution? Like we know Don embodies this ideology of publishing, editing. He is immersed in that world so much so that being in his sphere, right, helps us get into that world or understand it. Fair? Is that a fair estimate of what my man Don does, right? Right? So, what do you embody? Then, so after you've figured out your offer as an author, whatever it is, get very, very specific. Who is this offer for, specifically? Forget everyone else after that. Narrow it down. Go an inch wide and a mile deep. Who's heard that before? Nobody? Cool. Okay. We just heard something new today. Inch wide, mile deep. Okay, we got our offer. It's done. Okay, and I'll give you a perfect example. My offer is marketing strategy, right? Who's it for? Non-fiction authors. Very specific. Like I don't care. Yes, there are fiction authors. Yes, there's so many people I can help with this one thing I have. But who's it for specifically? Emotionally? Non-fiction authors. More specifically, people who write business books. I can go more specific, right? Like even deeper and deeper into that. So, what is your offer? 2, where does your offer live? Where does your offer live? My dad's offer lived in a refugee tent, and he was able to bring us to America with it. My offer today lives on a website, a beautiful digital home. Because I don't want people knocking on my door physically, and we technically don't need to do that anymore. We have the power and technology of the internet, which doesn't limit me to 20 people. It literally opened up the whole door to the entire planet. I could work with anybody from anywhere. Beautiful, right? So, where does your offer live? Let me ask y'all something, real quick. Who has revamped their website in the last year? Beautiful. Who's touched it up in the last 3 months? Good work. Who has a blog that lives on it? Great. Who has a newsletter that distributes for them? Good work. Good work. The offer, once lined up with your home, it is the essence, right? It's answering the questions for why we're there. Why am I at your house? Why am I at this party? Why should I leave social media, wherever I'm at, and come to your house for the small party you got going on? Well, the party I got going on right now is full of authors and experts. If you want to hang out at that party, you come to my house, come to my digital home, right? Have a community there. Expertise, people to connect with, right? So you have your home. If it's not updated, if it looks like it came out of 1995, Windows, we got to upgrade you. Like, it's a must, okay? Change the t-shirt, put on some new jeans. Like, we got to do that, right? So, offer, home. Here's the third part. This is my favorite part. When we think content, before you think content, you have to think about strategy. So my dad, before he started creating these paintings and all of these things, he was thinking about strategy. How do I get my family out of here? So first and foremost, he thought karma. I must do good for others in order for good to happen to me. Let me say that one more time. I must do good for others before good happens to me. That's how karma works. It's not a negative thing, it's a positive thing. Okay? So you position yourself to send that good out, whatever it is. In my case, I send my book out. Why? Because I have a strategy. I want to speak in front of leadership conferences. I want to speak in front of high school students. I want to speak in front of college students. Why? Because my message of resilience and art is fucking dope. And I want to get it in front of people. Here's why. I am just so happen to be the messenger of this powerful message. If I don't believe in it the way I just did, who will? Who will? This little Arab boy, who's going to believe in this little Arab kid? Especially after 9/11 and what's going on right now. Who going to believe in me if I don't believe in myself? Right? So I'm going to talk about empathy. I'm going to talk about how to work with people. I'm not going to talk about how you treat your team. I'm talking about how you treat yourself. Because how you treat yourself matters to how you treat your team. I go deep. I look in people's eyes. I make sure they recognize that I exist. Because for a long time, refugees don't fucking exist. We don't think about them. So this is my gift. I get to be here and I get to remind all of you that there are people out there that are struggling. And I have this thing called survivor's guilt. And this is what I do about it. I create moments and experiences for people to remember who they are, where they come from. Because we're all immigrants and refugees on foreign land. Home just happens to be Earth. You are a human. You're not American. You're not French. I'm not an Arab. We are human first and foremost. All these things are just bonuses. Depends on how you look at them. So I get to bring this message, but I got to position myself in front of who needs to hear it. And in my scenario, leadership. Right? Because they're the ones doing hiring. So if I can convince them to hire refugees, if I can convince them to do all these things, that's where I create empathy. You see the power of the message? Great. The purpose of my book is then to get it in front of the right people to create the impact I am trying to make in this world. So if you were to take your book and say, where's the best place I can place this book to create the impact I want to create? I want to help policy change. Right? Well, where does policy get made? Leadership. Who can root for that policy? Universities. Where can I embed and plant the seeds? High schools. Strategy. You see where I'm going with this? Strategy. And if a school can't pay me, that's cool. This leadership retreat just paid me 10. I could do 10 high schools for free. I promise you. Because that's love. You see what I'm saying with this? It's not always about receiving. It's always about giving. Okay, so let's backtrack. Before we said content, we said strategy. Did y'all hear my strategy? Okay, you got to think about your strategy. Think about it in 3 parts. Who, where, and why. Right? So who do you want to get in front of? Where are they? And why is your purpose? What is the thing that drives you? What's your fire? My fire is my refugee experience. Okay? So the fire needs fuel. You see what I'm saying? So my content is the fuel. It's the inventory that I get to dump on that fire. And how do we make content? So content comes in many forms. Writing, video. You can do it in so many different formats. Book writing, speaking, doing podcasts, anything that creates media. Media is what we consume, right? We don't just consume food. That's just one aspect of who we are. Food is for our bodies. Everything else is for your mind. Think about that. I'm going to say it one more time. Food is for your body, right? Everything else is for your mind. Notice how I didn't say brain, because I know I'm not a fool. Food also helps your brain. But your mind is how you think. And how you think comes from what you consume through your eyes, your ears, and who you're around. So your nature. Okay? So if we take that in consideration, what kind of content do I like to consume? I like video. I like to read, right? I like books. Not so much magazines, personally, right? So, where do I consume? Right now, it's right here on my phone, right? My phone is important to me. Whose phone here is worth $300,000? I'm willing to challenge you. Your phone is a piece of technology that carries contacts. The most valuable thing that we have as human beings is our connection, our contacts, right? So don't go to places to try to sell something. No, go to places to make a contact, a connection, someone that can help you create a bigger impact for what it is that you're trying to do on this planet and in the time frame in which you have while you're here. You're all here with a purpose. What is that purpose? Hone in on it. Fuck everything else. Hone in, focus. So the content then, because I like to consume content in this way, I'm going to position myself to create content in that way. So don't just receive it and consume it. Go out and create it. So then, Hussein, there's like 50 million social media platforms, and there's a 300 million, and there's so many tasks, and there's a... No, just start with this one sentence. I help people do X. Who's your people? What do you help them do? That's the one sentence you gotta know. Then you're gonna take that sentence and embed it to where you like to be comfortable. Substack, are you a writer? Do you like doing YouTube videos? You don't have to do everything, but you have to do one thing. And you have to do that one thing very well. So you have to understand the platform you're on. What is that algorithm? Don't say, oh, the algorithm doesn't like me. No, algorithm don't give a shit about you, your work, or nothing. What it cares about is having people stay on that platform. You got to understand that all these platforms are essentially commercial. They're there for commercials, for ads. So what do they want? They want attention. Remember, back to the attention economy. So how did my dad get attention? By creating content that someone wanted. Cool. Everyone here is either writing a book or getting ready to write a book or is an expert in the world of publishing. So if you position yourself to create content for the person you want to help from the treasure trove that is your book or your expertise and wisdom, right? You then cannot lose. Because a lot of people say, well, I don't want to sound self-promoting. I don't want to sound confident and cocky and all these things. Why? That's not what you're going to sound like, I promise you. Here's what it sounds cocky, right? For 3 weeks you say, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. That sounds ridiculous. Your book doesn't, it's not what I want. As a matter of fact, what we actually want is to be close to the author. We want to get to know what they're like, what their process is like. What time do they wake up to write? What are they writing about today? What chapter are you on? What picture? What inspires you? What motivates you? Aren't these the questions that all of you have asked everyone that sat up here? That's what we're interested in. So if we're interested in that, why can't that be your content? And share it. You don't have to share about your book, but you can share the expertise within your book because you get to be the messenger of the message. Does that make sense? So when we own the fact that we are messengers, then we have to go into line of fire or into the light. We have to go into the line of fire or into the light in order to get our message heard. Moses was like, dude, I don't want to go to Pharaoh and tell him that he's tripping. I'm not going to do it. He's like, and God was like, you going to do it, bro. This is how this works, right? So the message inside is like, oh, I don't want to put my message out here because they're going to make fun of me on social media. People are going to judge me, man, this and that. Okay, you can keep hiding. Ain't nobody going to see you because you're not putting yourself in the light. And what happens when we put ourselves in light? We're now vulnerable. Vulnerability is a superpower. It's the superpower. It's grand. It's masculine and feminine. You own both. At that point, You are the man of steel. Because nothing can take you down. You are who you are. You're on purpose. You don't listen to that voice inside. That voice actually becomes your warrior and says, what's next? I'm ready for it, right? So you got to put yourself and your content in the idea of who is this for? How does it help them? In a format of an expert. You are an expert at X, whatever that is. That's fantastic. And it doesn't have to be scientific. It doesn't have to be, here's the other part of content. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's about me. Everybody that goes and consumes books, why do I want to read this book? How does it help me in my life, in my wife, in my business, in my fantasy fiction, in my children, in my whatever it is? How does it help me? Because we live in America, bruh. It's all about me, right? And that's not a bad thing, but we all in this world of self-improvement, all these beautiful things, that's fantastic. So how does your book help them? So if you bring that expertise out into the world, now here's the coolest part. You don't just have to create content, you have to go engage. Remember, reciprocity. You have to give before you receive, right? So what do I give? I like to give likes, and I like to give comments. And I'm interested in other people. Be genuinely interested in others, and guess what's gonna happen? Other people will be interested in you. That's just how the world works. It's simple, but if you can get over that fear of what other people will think of you, right? If you can get over that fear of what other people will think of you, you will become limitless. Absolutely limitless. Whatever it is you're doing, if you're an author, or if you are an expert in the field, or whatever it is, right? So my goal here is to get you to think about engagement. Engagement. Engage with other people. Be seen. Show up. My dad went to the guy with the machine gun in order to be seen, to be heard. What is stopping you? It's my only question to you. What is stopping you? If you have a book right now that you're trying to get published, there are people here who can help you with that. Go up to them. Ask questions. Be interested not in you, in trying to get them interested in you. Be interested in them and say, what are you looking for? What kind of books do you like? Because what do? We love talking about ourselves. Boy, I was up here talking for like 20 minutes talking about myself, right? So, it's about them. Once you get into their head, then you can say, hey, I wrote this manuscript, and it actually dives into the things that you're looking for. Would you be in? Of course he's interested. But you listened first. You gave your attention to that person first. That's the key. I'm giving y'all gold here. Can you nod a little bit more? All right. Okay, this is stuff you know. I'm just reiterating what you already know because I'm a reminder. In the Quran, there's this thing that says, Allah says, you are an insan, which is the word insan comes from forgetful. You're human and you are forgetful. It's the same word, which is fascinating because aren't we forgetful? Yeah. So what do we need? We need a constant reminder. He says, I sent you 140,000 prophets. 140,000 prophets, some of which you know. Buddha, Muhammad, Jesus, all these beautiful people. Some of which you don't know, right? They went to small villages. They were like the Marcus Aurelius, whatever, right? They were the beautiful people that we don't necessarily know, but they change things, right? So, reminders. This is how important they are because we are forgetful. We need to be forgetful for a lot of reasons. We can't just remember all the pain, right? But we can remember all the joy that we can create if we actually align ourselves with our purpose. And if we use our offer, if we use our home, digital or physical, whether it's a library, whether it's a bookstore, or whether this hotel. This is a home, right? And it facilitates an experience. So what kind of experience? This room is a solution to a problem. It's not just a space. This place is a solution to whose problem? Tabitha's, or people like Tabitha. Does that make sense? So your home also can incorporate a solution to someone's problem. And once you're able to do that, people will want to come back and visit. And now, it's not just a space in a big box. It's circles, it's beautiful lights, it's book. You get to create what that experience is like to help that person explore that problem with a beautiful solution. Third, engagement. Content, but more importantly, strategy. Think long term, long game. People take 20 steps like this. If you take 20 steps and move forward, you'll be a lot further. Which means consistency and staying focused. It's not about likes and comments. It's about posting every day and engaging even more every day. Social media is not a thing that you do or whatever. It's something you have to do. It is your job. No one's going to do it for you. Even the publishers aren't going to market you like you would. Look at Ryan Holiday. Anybody familiar with Ryan Holiday? Yeah, he's everywhere. He has a whole team dedicated to creating content, right? Videos, this, that. So that's what I'm saying. Like, the more you invest in how we are today, in this world that we live in today. Because if we go back even 100 years, what would you invest in, right? Newspapers and magazines and your community. Everything now is just amplified. Your phones are all worth millions of dollars. They could be if you just put the right contacts in there, if you start to disperse, right, and distribute your content and be intentional about it and not worry about what other people think, right? So that's engagement. That's the third one. My last one is, I got nothing but love for y'all. This has been wonderful. I appreciate your time.